From the advertising media capital of the world, New Milford, Connecticut, wherever that is. This is Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson, a bi-weekly-ish podcast about all things automotive marketing. Now, here's your host, Matt Wilson.
Hi, yes, hello. Welcome to Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Like the guy said, a bi-weekly-ish podcast all about automotive marketing. Usually about that. We are live right now, actually. This is Mostly Automotive Marketing Live. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Daily Motion, Twitch, whatever the heck that is. I don't really know. But if you aren't hearing this live, then you're listening as its regular podcast format. You can always find the show on Apple, Google, Spotify, and a bunch of other places. And as you guessed, the podcast is about automotive marketing. And I'm Matt Wilson, which is the reason that I named it that. Otherwise, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So today, I want to talk to you about how you talk to your clients. Or maybe even how you talk to anybody, really. Prospects, friends, coworkers, bosses, the mailman, anybody you talk to. I want to talk about how you talk to them. And the newsflash is, it ain't always about you. I used to think it was always about me. It'd be cool if it was always about me, but it's not. It's about them. And in all those situations, you got to think about the other person, whether it's the customer, the supervisor. It's about them, not you. And my friend, Jim McCarthy, turned me onto this logical way of thinking because he's so smart. And he created the hashtag BeThemCentric. And he's joining me to talk about it right now. Or he was joining me to talk about it right now. I don't know, he's not there anymore, but he's he's a former radio guy, right? We used to work together. He used to work in the automotive industry. So
did I scare the crap out of you just now? For those of you listening.
Well, if you're watching, he disappeared. But he currently owns Big Dot Lighting, right? And he's the CEO of Jim McCarthy Voiceovers. His name is Jim McCarthy. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You and I always have long hour and 10-minute provocative discussions on the phone, maybe every week, maybe every other week.
Yeah.
Right. You talk like a couple of high schoolers catching up on what's
like the
going
two
on.
guys from the Muppet Show up in the balcony. That's
right.
what our conversations are like.
Exactly like that. And we were talking the other day, and well, actually, I see this all over your social media. You always use the hashtag BeThemCentric. And I try and pay attention to your posts and listen to your podcasts and read what pick up what you're putting out there. But what exactly is hashtag BeThemCentric, and how'd you come up with it and why? And elaborate.
It was born out of a frustration of seeing posts on Facebook from an assortment of salespeople who were frustrated at no response to follow-up emails, phone calls, a lot of posturing that they would say, well, all I'm asking for is, 5 minutes of their time, and no one's taking me up on it, that kind of thing. And I would say, well, you got to be, that just kind of came out of my mouth, you got to be them-centric. You have to understand where they are. And, in the world of marketing and advertising, Matt, as you well know, and that you and I have kind of come up with, we would write commercials and posture our clients to the audience of the radio station. If you really wanted an effective commercial, you could, and people did, come out with a one-sided, one-way message that was all about the client. Let us tell you about all the different things that we can do and beat our chest and put a laundry list together. Right. It wasn't until they spoke to the heart of the client and, identified a problem that they could solve that was in the best interest of the client, their client, not them, not the advertiser, that when that message really started to resonate. So that is the key to a lot of things that I've found, voiceover people, especially, they want to know how to prospect. And I tell this story, and actually I did a video on this last week, just using this technique. first and foremost, I think voiceover people need to learn how to produce audio at least for the sole purpose of producing spec spots. So your best prospecting field is your radio station, your local radio station. If you're a creative voiceover talent and you're looking for work, for example, listen for those spots that run in the spot sets that are voiced by the same person, or maybe even the manager or the owner of the company, and hit them up. Do a spec spot, write it up, maybe 15, 20 seconds a copy, throw your voice behind it and throw some music behind it and send it out to them with the subject line, "Hey, I heard your ad on the radio."
Yeah.
I can't imagine any better subject line that would get an email open than that. So that in and of itself is being them centric. I have something on offer for you. I've already, piqued your interest. It gets better in the body of the email because not only did I hear your ad, I would like to offer my services to you as a market and industry exclusive voice to brand your business. Oh, and by the way, I've actually given you a spec,
Yeah.
addressed a certain pain or a problem. Here's the solution of sorts.
So instead of, "Hi, Matt, I work at a agency and we do SEM and SEO and conquest email, and we have won multiple awards for our work in the creative field. When can I have 20 minutes of your time to chat about it?"
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make any sense, because what's in it for the reader? What's in it? Because I prospect for my job, right? I mean, I've been prospected to a lot in my previous jobs, and I prospect a lot now. And I feel like I've heard or seen it all in terms of, prospect pitches, calls, that kind of thing. And now being on the other side of it, you kind of start to realize, like if you read a pitch or something, or an email, you're like, okay, like the amount of people who don't respond because you're not really asking a question, or you're not giving them a compelling reason to get back to you, to talk to you.
That's the thing is when you're
just a statement.
Yeah, when you're putting it out there, it's if it's very you-centric. See, here's the thing. It's not about you until it is, if that makes sense. If you're putting, even with content on social media, whether it's emails or whatever, and this whole idea of you and I coming on and talking about this was born out of one of your episodes where you reached out to a certain client and they kind of gave you a comeuppance, and you talked about it and were very transparent about it, and described the process of feelings that you went through about it. And that was a great episode. But, I'm like, well, dude, you came at him. It wasn't a bad way to come at him, but there's almost like a sales karma that happens.
Yeah.
That if you're not willing to entertain a few phone calls from some salespeople at all, and you're in a position of a decision-making capability, that could come back around and bite you. I experienced that in the car business when I sold cars. And to this day, I'll take a sales call every now and then because I know the other guy on the other end of the line is just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
And at least he can go back to his manager or boss and say, well, I've connected with some people and had some conversations. So at least I've helped in that effort. Will I convert and buy whatever it is that they're selling? Probably not. It depends on their pitch.
Yeah.
I
feel like that too. There's definite I did the same thing. And I was a marketing director for a large group. Obviously, more people are jockeying for your time in your business. So, phone calls, emails, unscheduled drop-ins. I could have spent all day responding to those people. But now I wish I responded to more or fielded more, because I feel like the karma of me either never calling anybody back, which I honestly just did not do. I didn't have time. I didn't call anybody back, or not responding to emails is coming. I feel like it's coming back to me. I will tell you, I did respond to people who, like, if there was something in their first line that was funny or eye-catching or made me chuckle, I would write back and I would at least say, hey, man, I really liked your email. I thought this part was really clever or really creative. And, that's a good way to go about it. Thanks for reaching out.
Well, think about that for a second. You just addressed exactly what we're talking about. There was something in there for you. Not just it got your attention, sure, but it got your attention for a reason because it was different. It was nonlinear, and it basically just got your attention. And there was some sort of an entertainment factor in it for you. And that's why you were good enough to respond and at least acknowledge, hey, good job. How many sales calls did you take? I take them every now and then where I end up coaching the person on the other line.
Yeah.
I've
done that.
Stop reading the script. Okay. Understand the points and the different bullet points and internalize them and, spew them out in your own words.
Yeah.
Feel them. It's like voiceover,
Yeah.
and voiceover and selling cars is very similar. In the way that you get into the car business they put you in front of what? A bunch of scripts, I remember my first BDC position was looking, had all the scripts on the walls in front of you, ways to overcome objections and things of that nature. And it wasn't until that you internalize those ways to naturally have them come off. But one of the best ways to make a cold call to somebody was just get the notion of a cold call out of the way and say, look, this is a cold call. I don't like making them. You're probably not liking receiving them. So, I wouldn't be surprised if you hung up on me right now.
You gave me that advice and I've done that.
Have you?
I have. I've used it before.
Has it worked?
Not really. Not yet. But I do the same thing with emails sometimes or on LinkedIn. I'll be like, listen, totally inappropriate to reach, to connect and reach out to you on LinkedIn. I think the old phrase is like, you don't have somebody to marry you on the first date. Mm-hmm. Hi, Janet. Thanks for connecting with me. Do you want to spend $5,000 tomorrow on this product? That's not going to happen. These things take, you got to kind of finesse the relationship a little bit in the beginning.
LinkedIn people are the worst at that, man. You make a connection. They hit, hey, I just want to know if you have 5 or 10 minutes. I'd love to go over our product lineup that I think would be great for your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which business? And tell me how it might be great for me. Be specific.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I see that you're doing this. I see that you're advertising this, thing in Davidson County because of the Nashville tax hike. And you could actually convert people over to LED lighting, which is one of my businesses, and actually offset the tax hike that they just, we could actually employ this one module that might get you an extra 5,000 to 10,000 eyes on this. And it only costs you about, $299. Is that something you'd be willing to talk about? Well, crap. Now you got my attention. You were specific. Right, yeah. You addressed a potential pain that I have. I would like to get this message out in front of more eyes. You're telling me it's not all that much money, and you're promising that I can get 5,000 to 10,000 more pairs of eyes on it. Well, crap, yeah, I will take you up on that.
Yeah,
everything about that message would be about me.
Is there any danger in assuming that what your prospect wants to hear? Like, I was reading an article the other day about, obviously we're in crazy times. And the article, I think it might have been in Ad Age or Automotive News or one of those trade magazines, used to be magazines, trade publications. And it was about like, okay, companies, stop telling me what you think I want to hear. Like, stop telling me you're here for me. This is a tough time. You need, somebody for A, B, and C. And tell me what you're trying to tell me. So, and that's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about now, right? That's a little different than, because you don't want to assume, like, all right, so I deal with auto dealers, and it's a tough road right now, depending on what your OEM is, what your inventory situation is. But I don't like to approach somebody and be like, oh man, I'm guessing this is your problem, and here's how we can help it. Like, should you do some research first and see if you can figure out what you're trying to target or what they might want to hear instead of just taking a shot in the dark?
Yeah, I think to not do the research on a prospect in this day and age is just utter laziness. There's so much information out there that you could uncover, especially the person you're trying to appeal to. It's not just the business. You can find that person on probably any one or more social media platforms and see what they're talking about, see what their interest is. I'll never forget a story that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about early in his days in building his wine business. He sent it was a loser deal. He had to drive this, case of wine to a place up in an hour away or whatever. It was during the winter, so it was snowing, and but he knew that that would earn points. It built equity in the mind of his customer that he was willing to do that. And he was like, dude, we're making maybe $1 a bottle or something like that. So
Right.
$12 profit for a case of wine. He says, I went above and beyond because I went into the guy's house and dropped it off. I saw that he was like, and I'm probably butchering the story. This is paraphrasing, that he was a fan of a certain sports team. And he's Vaynerchuk's a huge sports fan, and he looks at memorabilia. He saw something on eBay that wasn't very expensive, that was one of a kind, signed kind of thing, went and bought it and sent it to the guy. Said, hey, the last time we got together, thought you'd like this.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's an amazing move. And what did that turn into? The guy ended up talking about him. Oh my gosh, look what they did for me. There was nothing expected in return. He just went out of his way. He paid attention to the thing that I like. And yeah, he sent me something that was really cool. Oh my gosh. The guy is a flaming advocate now. And then he handed him Vaynerchuk's business to another friend of his, who in turn placed a very large order that was very profitable. So you never know. And this kind of goes back to my whole, I don't know if I ever told you about my theory on hamburger versus steak clients.
I don't think so.
This is the same kind of thing. A lot of people in the creative arts space, voiceover especially, are downing the new people who are coming on board and driving the rates down.
Right.
And the commoditization of our industry in voiceover is happening. You cannot do anything about it. We're starting to have to compete with AI, which is going to be fun. But,
Right.
This is why I diversify my skill set, and I've got other things I can make money off of. But anyway, hamburger versus steak clients are the clients that are hamburger clients that have very limited small budgets, but, they want something done. They like your voice. They want you to, they can't pay what your normal rate is. And, in your sales process, you should be able to back up why they should pay your rate. And it shouldn't be about you at all. And that's generally the posture that most voiceover people and creatives do. Well, I am worth this. Bull snarky.
Right.
I swear here. I am worth this. Okay. No, you're not worth anything until you prove it to that person. You are not worth anything. Okay, you are worth what they think you are worth in their mind until you explain to them why your rate is the way it is. It's not about them. It's not about you and what you think you're worth. It's about them and making them understand what goes into it. Okay, and even then, if they can't pay you what you think you're worth, how can you back down on the project involvement? Well, I'll still do this, but, because you're forgetting about a multitude of other factors that go into that. That is them-centric, okay? I really like your project. I really love to do it. Is there some way we can at least get an extra $50 or something like that? Well, yeah, we can do that. Awesome. Terrific. Because with that, they're going to learn what it's like to work with you, which is, I think, priceless if you do a good job, right? They're going to, get your product. There's another way to get your voice out there, your product onto other things. Hopefully they become a flaming advocate. They're not going to want to stay. If they're working for somebody else, they're not going to they all want to move up. Nobody wants to stay stagnant where they are. So imagine if you've achieved all those different things. I'm trying to get my hand in front of here. The fourth component is the fact that they take you with them. And this is something I stress to car salespeople all the time. Establish some sort of independent Facebook page or something that can be mobile, right? In any given situation, if they're a flaming advocate of you and they take you with them to wherever they are next, that next place could be a steak client that pays what your rate or more.
Yeah.
And they're willing to champion you in that space and introduce you to that whole new group of people into that network. And the fifth one is, dude, ask for the referral. It's easier to ask for the referral at that point if you've done such a great job. There's nothing but upside in thinking that way. Now, that's a very them-centric posture. There's nothing but value in it for your client when you approach it that way. You don't.
Can I talk?
Oh, wait,
For God's sake.
Sorry.
I mean, geez.
I
I
went
agree
off
with
on a tear. This is why you have me on.
No, I agree with you. Listen, and if you look at it from the auto standpoint, before you're going to hit, you're your salesperson, before you're going to hit somebody with, someone says, okay, well, what's the price of this car? Before you hit them with a, $38,000 price tag on a 2019 Nissan Altima, you should have shown them already why that car is worth 38. That what did I say originally? The number was $38,000. You need to make sure they know that. So if you hit them with the price tag, they're not like, whoa, why would I pay that much for this car? Well, I've already shown you the value in this car. Here's how it looks. Here's what it does. Here's the safety features. Here's what makes it different from the other ones you may be looking at. And by the way, here's how much it costs. But
you're also remember, you're going by what you're assuming they are looking for in a car. At that point, if they're starting to get price heavy with me, I would actually get into interviewer mode and say, what is it about the car that you like? What really kind of turns you, what is it that you're looking for in a car? What didn't you like about your last car? All those different questions to uncover and encourage. You're fact finding, but you're also encouraging the conversation and making it about them. Yeah. I want to learn about you. I want to find out, what is it about this car you really like? Man, I really like the wheels. Man, okay, that's interesting because you realize that there's like 2 or 3 other different wheels. If you think these wheels are cool, what about these wheels?
Yeah.
And if you're knowledgeable about the product, and when I sold, Mercedes, that's what I think was ultimately valuable for my clients, is that I think I conveyed the passion and enthusiasm for the brand, and I knew that when they were going to Lexus or BMW, that there was a good chance they weren't going to encounter somebody like me that was enthusiastic about their brand. They were going to encounter somebody that was just there because it was a job,
Right.
I counted on that, and probably 8 times out of 10, I was right. So everything is of value. Even the way you present something in a vehicle can be a massive value in the eyes of the customer, especially if you make it about them. If you're knowledgeable about the things that they're interested in that car, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, I think if you ascertain that information through an interview or questions early on, if you can figure out, are they dog owners? Do they have a big family? Do they drive the kids to soccer practice? Is safety their most, do they live in an area do they feel like safety is their most important, factor? Like you said, is the weather, is handling of the car, the all-wheel drive, you got to figure out sort of what they're thinking, and then you can kind of hammer home that part of it.
If you come at it with the attitude, it's not about me, it's about them, you'll win so much more. Because if you think about it, a lot of the responses that you get from dealerships when you're inquiring about a car is dealership, centric. Hey, this is more, we saw that you were interested in these cars and when I worked for the dealership that I worked for, we'd show, hey, we saw that you were interested in this. Here are 2 other options that you also might be interested in. That's assuming it was a little bit of a value punch. We weren't exactly doing a lot of video at that point. But if you really want to go above and beyond, I just want the best price. Well, our best price is based on, market pricing and what the market will bear. But let me ask you, we could certainly find the right price for you. We are very competitive. Let me ask you about, what about the car really interests you? Then you're turning the question around, making it more about them. Hopefully they'll respond. And it's tough to do in an email,
Right.
Because the next step with an email is trying and getting them on the phone. Once you have them on the phone, trying and getting them in the showroom. That's the process.
Little mini sales, mini closes.
The mini commitments, absolutely. Part of the sales process. And, there's definitely a strategy in play, but it's a lot easier. when I was working, one of the guys I worked with at Mercedes had a great opening line when people came into the showroom. And I was like, holy crap, why didn't I think of that? So they would come in and be like, hey, welcome to Mercedes-Benz. What is it that you're looking for today? Oh, we're interested in the GLE. Okay, tell me about the research you've already done online. I was like, what a question.
Yeah.
Tell me about because then all of a sudden they're going to be, well, I really like this. They're going to tell you everything you need to know, that you can address if you're good at your game.
Now let's look at it from a dealer perspective, from a little bit higher view. So, okay, automotive industry generally, we prefer, or sales managers prefer, to have the customer in the showroom, right? They want you in the showroom. They want to negotiate in the showroom. They want you on your terms, right? Probably best chance for bumping a payment, best chance for holding gross, all that jazz. And they'll set up marketing and advertising or put processes in place to drive people into buying that way. But not everybody wants to buy that way, right? Some people want to get as much done over the phone. Some people want to get a lot done online. Some people want to do the whole thing over the phone or online. And dealerships will push them into doing it their way. Like the group I used to work for, we had a store, and the philosophy at this store was, we don't give prices over the phone. They have to come in to get their price. And I would sit in the BDC and I would hear the BDC say to them, I'm sorry, we don't give prices over the phone. You have to come in. And they'd be like, well, I don't want to come in. I live an hour away, but you have the car I want. Can you give me the price? And they would go, no, you have to come in. Well, the dealer wants them to come in for the reasons I mentioned before, but the customer doesn't want to come in. So what do? A lot of the time, they don't come in. You lost your shot with that person. So why not adjust your process to the way the customer wants to shop? Because that customer does two things. They either eventually agree to come in, but they're mad, or they have a bad taste in their mouths from the beginning of the experience. They're starting off at a negative, or they don't come in and you lose that deal. If they come in with a bad experience, it's an uphill climb the whole way. And sure, maybe you'll bump them on price or do whatever happens in the finance office and make some money off that person. Or maybe you'll get a bad review off that person, or maybe they never buy a car from you. What is the harm in providing them the information they want in the format they want, and then being skilled enough to turn that person into a customer that eventually purchases?
Yeah, I think it's a case of understanding, getting in front of the people that believe the same way you do. And if they're a price conscious buyer and you're selling a somewhat commoditized product, you have to figure out how to pivot. And I think this may even come from a salesperson level, but surely a dealership and management level as well. I don't think there's harm in doing it with strategy. So if you're just blurting out a price, those customers, and I could tell from, my experience being on the sales floor, they're price shopping. They're analytic. They're not, maybe emotionally attached. You have to do everything in your power to try and keep the conversation going. Now, just giving them numbers, yeah, they can take them and run.
Right. Go to the next guy down the street and get his number.
Right. And that's, that's kind of just part of the deal. There are ways to overcome that and get around it. I don't think there is harm in doing that if you do it with strategy, a certain kind of strategy in mind. To just, shut it off. That's not, you're starting the relationship off adversarially. There's nothing, well, we're doing this because we got to protect ourselves. That's an us-centric statement. What kind of price are you looking for is a question I would respond to. I'm not showing you mine first. I'm going to find out where you are. Okay. And hey, what do you like about the car? Have you even seen it or driven it yet? What are we doing talking about price? Is typically how I would go about that kind of question. And say, understandably, we've got 5 other dealerships in town to deal with. So naturally, we are going to be competitive with our price and try and earn your business. But we want to do it in a way that's non-adversarial. We want to do it in a way that's helpful to you and you-centric, and make sure that we are answering your questions. So let me ask you this. What about the car interests you? Why do you like the Nissan Altima? What about it? Well, I really like the way it looks. Yeah, it looks great, doesn't it? Man, you should see some of the things they're going to be doing for, the couple of years down the road.
Yeah.
But, it's that kind of an attitude, that kind of a posture. There are ways around it. So to answer your question, I don't think there's any harm if you do it strategically.
Yeah. You have a plan. You can't just roll over and, give them the number, but, you can push to get it done the way you want to get it done. But when push comes to shove, you gotta be able to do it the way the customer wants to do it. Yeah. Is what I believe.
If a dealership understands the nature of the currency of relationships and how relationships will build their business. If you're dealing with a transactional customer, yeah, that's kind of tough. But if they're a transactional dealership, it's going to be adversarial all the way around. And that dealership will, honestly, I'll just say it right here. They're either going to lose overall down the road and ultimately just, be the low price leader kind of thing. Or they're going to base, and there are businesses and dealerships out there. Look, we've got two in town, and I've talked about them before. We got two Mercedes-Benz dealerships, one of which I work with quite heavily. They hold their gross against the other dealership. The other dealership pulls their pants down every single time.
Yeah.
Why, how can they coexist? It's value. The people at the other dealership that where they hold gross are being treated like professionals. They're being paid like they're professional. Okay. They're being trained like they're professional. The culture is there to make them feel valued. The CEO, his first investment is his people. He makes it well known. He makes it well known. So they're willing to take a bullet for the guy. They're willing to go out of their way and make themselves better people because they feel like he believes in them. So when you again, I think a lot of this comes back to culture. When you have a dealership culture that is backstabbing, looking for ways to subvert the frontline people, your service advisors, your salespeople, parts counter people, those kinds of things. Yeah, you're gonna reap what you sow, and you're gonna struggle more than you have to, time and time again. That's just I think that's just the way of the world, because be them centric also has to be a mindset from management down, from ownership down, from the C-level executives down. It's not about them. It's about the people who work for us.
It'd be cool if it was about them. It'd be cool if it was about us, but it's not.
I think in certain places it is, and over time in this, online world we're in, it has to go that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense otherwise.
My note here says, take a break.
Why take a break?
I got to read a commercial.
Really? For
No.
JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com?
Yeah, not really. I don't have. I'm just kidding. I don't have any sponsors. All right. So hashtag be them centric. First of all, is it taking off? Is it trending on Twitter yet?
Oh, totally. I've got like millions of impressions.
Because I think it's a great philosophy. How do we make it a trend? How do we trend it?
Just keep talking about it and put it out there. I've already got a T-shirt. I should try. I could probably sell the T-shirt. I don't know if I can actually own it or coin it. I'm sure I can.
Well, let's give away a hashtag be them centric T-shirt to caller number 5 right now.
It's the Mostly Automotive Marketing Podcast. 68 degrees here in New Milford.
We're going to send you a Be Them Centric T-shirt and an autographed tissue from Jim McCarthy. Thanks for listening.
What's in the tissue? Don't worry about it. Did he blow his nose or did he do other things with it?
Excuse me. How can Be Them Centric apply to somebody in their life as opposed to just business?
I think when we put ourselves last, it just works out a lot better. I mean, people are generally selfish.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
100%.
You're going to, if you're willing to go out of your way.
Radio, I was like, man, I am the man. What was that movie? Anchorman?
That's right.
You probably know who I am. You probably know who my dad is.
Well, but even with celebrities, you make a point. I remember meeting, I came into work one morning. This was back when I was working in Vegas. And we always had, a multitude of guests because we had 6 radio stations in the building. And you'd have some people that were, famous and semi-famous walking the hallways. And there was this one guy that was going to be on one of my radio stations. And he looked familiar at first. And I he just did my thing, put my coat down, went and got my coffee. And he was following me down the hall to the kitchen. And he says, hey, is this where I can get some coffee? I'm like, oh yeah, man, come on in. Introduce him he's like, hi, he's like, you work at the radio station? I said, yeah, I'm in production. I work for the 2 a.m.s. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a guest on one of the radio stations. I'm like, oh, cool. What do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a singer. Nice. Where do you sing? He's I'm doing a stay at one of the casinos. And he looked really familiar. And I said, well, I'm Jim. He goes, hi, I'm Frank. And it was Frank Stallone, Sly's brother. And I'm going, holy crap, dude. man, that's kind of cool, And I had no idea. He wasn't pretentious. He wasn't presumptuous. He was acting just being nice, just he was very me-centric, kind of very interested in what I was all about. Same thing happened with Alan Thicke. He came in and cut a couple commercials with us, and he remembered my name. He was above and beyond professional. The people that he was with were not. They were kind of wannabes, but he's been around the block, and I remember him because of that.
Let's take a call.
We got a call?
Yeah, coming at you. Go to line 4. Who's this? Hello? Anybody there? Hold on. Oh, Bluetooth. Wrong button. Hold on. Wrong button. There we go. Thank you. It's my first time on the controls. Who's? Oh, is this Colin?
Hey guys, it's Colin Carasquillo with the Nielsen Automotive Group. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Colin? How you doing?
So I've been listening in. I'm calling caller number 1 for that hashtag #BeThemCentric t-shirt, first of all.
Hold on. Joe's going to take your address and we'll send it to you in the mail.
Yeah, but all jokes aside, listen, I love what you guys are talking about, and I love the whole Be-Them-Centric idea. What I wanted to address, going back to your pricing conversation, because I thought that that's super important, especially now in this day and age, that when you're comparing apples to apples, right, each OEM essentially is offering the same product. I mean, there could be 2 Jeep dealerships that are miles apart from each other that have the same thing. So when you're comparing apples to apples, and it does come down to pricing, fine, let's say we disregard pricing, it's how do you make apple pie when you guys need to present a different value proposition or things like that to the customer. So for me, I just wanted to chime in because I see that there are people watching on Facebook Live. That's where I'm tuning in from. And I'm sure there are other people out on these different avenues. But how does your dealership set itself apart from the competition? What sort of value proposition can you offer in this day and age, especially with COVID? What safety measures are you taking? Are you offering, at-home delivery? What things do you offer that when you have a customer on the phone will make them consider your dealership over a competitor in the absence of price, right? And I think that's ultimately what this comes down to.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's interesting too. I see Colin on LinkedIn, and so I think we probably follow a lot of the same people. But there's 2 dealership groups actually in Connecticut near me that I think are doing fantastic jobs of providing their customers with the service they want. Obviously, Connecticut, in terms of the virus, for a while it was kind of. Colin, you're in the Northeast too, I believe. It was a hard hitting area, and delivery was the only way to get it done early on. Now Connecticut has been doing very well, and people are starting to hit showrooms and whatnot again. But not everyone is going to want to purchase in the delivery way or the curbside pickup way or handle it that way, but it needs to be available because that's the way some people are going to be most comfortable doing it. And I'm seeing a lot of dealerships online talking about, hey, here's our number 3 home delivery of the month, and we were able to bring so and so her Jeep Wrangler. Wrangler, did I say that right? Wrangler.
Yeah, you got it.
Wrangler. Wrangler, and she was looking for A, B, and C. We got it to her. We brought it to her house. She never even came to the dealership. Or, we took care of so-and-so online. They came in, got their car. They were only here for 20 minutes. And they're promoting the fact that they're doing that on LinkedIn and Facebook and the Twitter. And it shows other people that we're about our customers, not just about us. And I think that's been a positive that's come out of this, is that hopefully that will continue going forward in the automotive industry.
Mm-hmm. I cannot agree more. And so that's basically the goal about, hashtag #BeThemCentric. So let's get it trending. I appreciate you guys taking my call. I'm going to let you get back to your good conversation there, but I did just want to chime in because, it's not all, I truly believe that it's not all about price. Sure, a lot of people can argue, yes, price, but I think the idea, especially as consumer shopping behavior changes, and we still are in this time of uncertainty, that there are ways that dealers can, hold growth. There are ways that dealers can compete in the same market, and it's about the customer experience. Hashtag #BeThemCentric, and that's that. So I appreciate it, guys. All right.
Thanks, Colin. We appreciate the call.
Thanks, Colin.
Talk to you later. Yep. Bye-bye.
Colin, hard to pronounce, marketing guy at Nielsen Automotive Group, checking in. He's going to co-host an episode with me on Friday, actually.
Colin on a cell phone. Hello.
Colin on the cell phone. Colin from New Jersey checking in.
Colin on the cart phone. This is our radio.
Other radio.
You know, and I remember there was this one time when people would question, even when we were, in the heat of the moment of a transaction, they would ask about doc fees and stuff like that. And as salespeople, you're always, trying to have to defend the doc fee and extra points are in reserve for finance. And when you just admit to them, you're like, well, it's a profit center. And at that point, it takes the wind out of their sails, and they go, oh. And it's like, our doc fee at the time was, I don't know, $4.99 or whatever. Uh-huh. And I said, it kind of guarantees that we're able to pay the people that do the paperwork and keep our operations and overhead paid for. Because believe it or not, sometimes our new cars do lose money. Believe it or not, they do. So the other areas that we have opportunities to make profit, and we're a for-profit business, it's not a secret, would be just to do this. So that's explaining in a them-centric way so they understand, and you're admitting it's profit. It's just profit. Yeah, it is. I agree.
Yeah. We got to make money. We're not here we're here to run a business.
Right. And, I think that transparency is ultimately a very appreciated component to the modern car deal. I just recently traded in my truck, and at two other dealerships, I got pretty lowballed on trade. Mm-hmm. I went to the final dealership where I ended up doing the transaction. They were still a little low on trade based on the research that I had done.
Right.
But it was also kind of a test to see what they wanted to, how they were going to go ahead and price my truck once it had gone into their processing and stuff like that. So they went ahead and put it up, and it was massively under market value. No, we sold it in 3 or 4 days. I'm like, yeah, because
right, of course,
you way underpriced it. But it kind of gave me an appreciation that not only were they, integrous when it came to pricing, but they made after all the recon and stuff like that and the things that they put into it, they probably made $1,500, $2,000 on the truck, which I'm fine with. That's what people need to be okay with,
going back to what Colin said about, we always just say at my Nissan group, like, we all have the same cars at relatively the same price, right? And Colin had mentioned, making, what turns the apples into applesauce. And I remember when I purchased a Jeep, this is going back, 8 years, and I looked at, I was going to service a Jeep. I was trying to find a place to service my Jeep. And because, I had it for 2 months, and the 4-wheel drive stopped working, and, whatever Chrysler thing happened to it. And I love that car, but, I had problems right off the bat. And so, are you paying attention, or are you texting and not even paying attention to what I'm saying? I'm telling a story here. Will you pay attention, please?
I'm being them-centric and getting back to a customer of mine.
Yeah, but you're not being them-centric to me. You're using this time, which is my time, to do your things.
Right.
Come on, man. Practice what you preach.
And I was just looking down at my hands.
Can I finish my story? So I was trying to find a place to service my Jeep, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a dealership that's 5 minutes from where I lived at the time. But it's not the place I bought it, but it's a closer dealership. And then there's another dealership that is the place I bought it, which is 20 minutes away. So I'm like, let me try and go to the place that is closer to me. So I call them, and they don't have the part that is needed, and they don't have a rental car fleet. So I'm like, well, I got to drop it off. It's like a 10-hour job or whatever it is. Or it's 6 hours, but they wanted to charge me for 10 hours of labor time. So they're like, well, we don't have a car to give you. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do? So I called the other place, and they had the part in stock, and they would give me a loaner. So I went to the place that was farther away. And the reason is they made my life easier.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to, if I go to the place that doesn't have rentals, okay, well, I either got to sit there all day and hope the Wi-Fi is okay, or I got to find somebody that can pick me up and take me to work and then pick me up and bring me back. But the place where I could just go drop it off and climb in a loaner car and then go back the end of the day and my car's done is the place that ultimately won my business, even though it was farther away from me than the other place. I'd ask you to comment on my story, but you're texting again, so. I need to be me-centric.
No, the thing about being them-centric is listening. Listening very well.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Yeah.
No.
You have two ears and one mouth.
Let me ask you this: what was the attitude of the person that didn't have the loaner car? Flippant.
What was the attitude of the person that didn't have the loaner car? They were just kind of like matter of fact about it. Like, no, we don't have loaners.
Okay. So when I sold Mercedes, we had the similar problem. We had not enough loaner fleet. And I would tell my customers, well, when you're making an appointment for service, just make sure you do it. If you want a loaner, try and get a couple of weeks ahead of it. And every customer, a couple of weeks. You mean I got to do extra work and inconveniencing my life, and keep in mind that I got to make a couple, I said, where are they going to do it for you? And I said, that's a culture thing. That's the management, that's the dealership not wanting to invest in the people, in the resources to make sure their service experience is of top-notch caliber. So therefore, you're, as an employee, I've heard this many, many times. I've answered this question over and over and over again. Sorry if this comes off flippant, but that's just the way it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I asked about attitude. Your unwillingness as a dealership or as a management team to not be them-centric to your customers will translate and transfer to your employees. If you're not going to care, neither should they. Okay? Yeah. And when you have something at your dealership that's different, that you can hang your hat on, that yes, we can accommodate you, Mr. Customer, in your time of need. Aren't we your hero? Isn't that great? That kind of confidence is going to come across in the conversation. Happens every time. Okay. And that's what a lot of dealership groups don't get. They just, we don't really need all that good reviews, and we'll just kind of push them down, and we'll counter all the bad reviews with, hey, it's not our problem, it's yours. And, call our general manager. Here's his number. Come on.
Yeah.
They're pissed off for a reason.
If you want to get into the conversation, feel free to call us. I'm going to do all the cheesy radio parts in the cheesy radio voice.
On the other side of the break, we're going to start talking about ways you can possibly be better with your BDC. So stay tuned.
I'm going to read a commercial, so we're all going to take a break.
Oh my gosh!
So give us a call, and we'll talk to you after the commercial. No, but if you do have an opinion or you want to let us know your thoughts, 203-665-8305. Let's take a break, right? Okay. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. And it's what I use to make my podcast, mainly because it's free. If it's free, it's for me. They have a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And if you're getting started in podcasting, they take away some of the technical part of it that maybe is deterring you from starting your podcast or doing it more frequently. They distribute it, because that's the hard part. How do you get it on Google and Spotify and Anchor? How do you get it at Google, Spotify? What's the other one? Oh, Apple, right? How do you get it out there? They do it for you. It's super easy. You just go in, sign up for an account, fill all the information, boom, Anchor does it. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I don't have that many listeners, and I've made $1.38. So get on there. It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I'm serious. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, or you have one, you're having distribution issues, get Anchor, download the free Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we're back with Jim McCarthy from Jim McCarthy Voiceovers.
Hey, off the record, can we take a quick break so I can go relieve myself?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hold on.
No problem. We can do that. I can carry it. I don't need your help. I can handle it myself. We'll take him off there. Jim mentioned something there about reviews. I'll mention too, I got a couple of episodes actually coming up that I'm excited about you guys hearing. One of them is about online reviews. I go through, I pull off a bunch of random reviews from the interweb, and I read them. I've already recorded this, so I can tell you what it's about. And I read them and then go over maybe the best way to respond to that review, or how you could have prevented that bad review in the first place. A lot of it comes down to process issues. For instance, a lot of the reviews that I've read are about, somebody who, through the BDC, schedules a test drive, or schedules the delivery of their vehicle, pickup, and then comes to the dealership, and the receptionist, salesperson, or sales manager has no idea that person was coming in. The process online didn't hook up with the process in the showroom. And that is the generates a lot of negative feedback and bad reviews. And that's an easy thing to fix. So a lot of dealers who get reviews like that frequently, that brings down their Google or Yelp reviews or Facebook, can prevent that fairly simply by making a few tweaks in-house. So I'll cover some of that stuff in that episode, which is coming up in a few weeks. Also in that episode, I'll talk about dealers who disable not even dealers, businesses who disable the reviews tab on their Facebook page. I read a lot of reviews before I make a purchase, right? Whether it's like when I went on my honeymoon, or I am going out to dinner and going on vacation somewhere and going out to dinner at a restaurant in that city. I read all the reviews online. And the other day I was looking at, I was prospecting and looking at some meat sharing companies. I know it's weird, online, and they had their Facebook reviews. He said meat sharing. They had some Facebook reviews tab was disabled on their Facebook page. And so I started reading the comments on some of their posts, and every comment was negative because those people wanted to leave those reviews but couldn't because they had the reviews tab disabled. So they would write their negative reviews on all the comments. The Facebook page was a disaster, but your customers are seeing that. And once you read a couple of those reviews, that person's not coming to you. So I talk about that in that episode as well, coming up in a few weeks on the podcast. We're rejoined by Jim McCarthy, who had to run to the restroom.
Yes. That's what happens when you drink big mason jars of water.
Yeah, let me see that.
Runs right through you.
What is that? Let me see that mason jar. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Is there any more?
Part of living in the South is that it's required to drink out of a mason jar.
Oh, how about that? Is there any more advice that we can give to people? Because listen, you're right. You mentioned earlier the voiceover industry, getting voiceover work, getting customers, prospecting. Like I work for an agency, prospecting new customers, whether I'm prospecting dealers or agencies. A salesperson or BDC person prospecting customers from the service department or people whose leases are going to be up soon. That's all. It's all the same thing. It's different products, but the process or the thinkology. I don't think that's a word.
Strategy, methodology.
Strategy, yeah, that makes more sense. The methodology that goes into it is all the same thing. Yep. Now, you having done that from multiple angles, from Mercedes, your car sales time, and as a voiceover person, and probably to an extent too with your lighting company, what's some advice that sort of on the be them centric wavelength you could give to those people? There's probably people listening right now who prospect for a living. Part of their job is prospecting. What's some advice that you can give them?
I think in any given situation, especially in the car business, what I would recommend is if you feel like there's a good chance that the person is emotionally attached to the product, the car that they're looking at, go out and take a video of it. And I know a lot of people do that. Some people don't. And just do a quick walk around, 20, 30 seconds, address them by name, and maybe even do some research on the person if you can. So maybe find them on Facebook or Twitter, stalk them, if you will, and find out some of the things that, you may have in common. Because it's amazing once you find out about a person, and they talk about this in the networking group that I'm a part of. It's really interesting what happens when you discover something in common with somebody else and how it opens up other paths of dialogue. The other thing that we talk about again in that group is we have some people who I'm not sure if you're not familiar with B&I. It's a networking group where every week people get together, they meet, they stand up, they give a 30-second commercial of sorts. And it's amazing how people will just, give it a month or two and then leave the group. Well, I wasn't getting any referrals. Right. Well, what were you asking for? B&I, they talk about being specific. Specific is terrific. Asking and making it easier for the rest of the group. Because it's not about, I paid to be in this group. It's your job to interpret what I'm saying and go and get me referrals. No, that's not the way it works. Right. It's a group of other professionals who have busy lives, and it is your job to make it easier for them to find you referrals. Okay? Make it easy for me. That's where the them-centric, be them-centric comes into play with that. So if you can make it easy for somebody, find ways to make yourself stand out that's of value to them. Going out and doing a spec spot for a voiceover client is akin to doing a walk-around video for 20 or 30 seconds. Really, how long will it take you? Hi,
Yeah.
I'm so-and-so. I'm right here. Here's the car you inquired about. And let's take a quick walk around. It's a beautiful thing. Not sure if you knew about this. You had mentioned in your, email, maybe they put up a post about car shopping and they had one hot spot that they were really concentrating on. You could address that in a video and make yourself stand out all the more. So,
Yeah, like if I'm prospecting, I'll try and research the company's, the dealership or agency's website a little bit, maybe take a look at their LinkedIn page. I mean, you don't want to take it too far. I drove by your house and I saw you had a Kansas City Chiefs flag outside. I mean, you don't want to take it to the creepy level, like on Modern Family, the Modern Family episode where that happened. I love that show. But anyway, it doesn't hurt to do a little research, or at least try and find some kind of connection. Whether it's with, the part of, like with me, if, all over the country, part of the country they're in, the name of the agency, sometimes on agency websites, they'll write little, clever, snarky bios about employees. There's always information in there that you can connect with. Oh, I see that you're a, New York Mets fan. Oh, me too, man. Those 90s were tough when, we sucked for so long.
hey, what'd you think about last night's game when he did this?
Yeah.
And you don't want to come across as pandering either.
Right.
That's the fine line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, I saw that, I'm looking as I was sitting across the street in my car. I saw that your wife's got a bra with the Browns logo on it. I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah. So you had dinner last night at the cookhouse, did you? I mean, you don't want to go, crazy, but
Hi.
everyone wants to.
I tell you there is.
I think about you in my dreams. I mean,
It makes my nether region swollen.
yeah. I mean, within reason, people. Within reason. I did one the other day where the guy that I was pitching. I got a pitch with two guys, and both of their names were Matt. So we're all named Matt. And then as I said it, I was like, well, that's so stupid. Why don't I even say that? Like,
It's the Matt Cubed show.
Yeah, right. Hey, Matt cubed here on the pitch. But then
Matt to the third power.
Yeah. But especially if I'll use geography. I'll use geography a lot. Like if I'm talking to a prospect in Nashville. Oh, my wife used to live in Nashville. I have a good friend who lives in Nashville. What a great city. It's so easy to navigate compared to New York. And then all of a sudden, they're talking about Nashville. Oh, cool. Did you ever go to a Predators game? Oh, yeah, I went to a Predators game. I saw Big and Rich there in 2005. It was 100 degrees. It was horrible. I mean, you can connect.
Here's another thing that dealerships make a mistake around, right?
Yeah.
Not letting their salespeople drive the cars on a regular basis. So when I worked in the business, it was frowned upon to take a car home. Big mistake. Yeah. Big mistake, okay? Because that's how you're going to get familiar with the car and connect the little nuances and technologies of the car with the lifestyle of the customer. For example, the first time I really understood the power of rapport was when I was working for Honda, and I had a couple that was coming to look at a minivan, okay? Now, who is more familiar with minivans and families than me and, a lot of other people?
Right.
So instantly, they weren't familiar with, the way the seats went down in the back. I said, this is a great thing. This is exactly how we use ours. We could put one seat down. You got all this room for suitcases. You got another seat over here for a child, or they can have extra room and lay down. You've got this big, kind of storage space when the seats are up with a lot, storage for groceries or whatever. Things aren't going to roll around. Instant, rapport because I got where they were coming from.
Yeah.
Having small children. So yeah, anytime. And that's the other thing is that a lot of the people that work as salespeople in the business, they're either really young or too young to have families yet.
Mm-hmm.
Or, they're in the business. So their family suffers.
Yeah. Right.
But having that connection, I never understood that. Why won't you let me take a car home?
I used to do that. I used to do that if I was talking to customer, sometimes I would chat with customers in the showroom, and I would, if I bumped into a customer, I would start up a conversation, and, my wife had a Rogue, a Nissan Rogue, and I would find out, what the customer was doing, and I would be like, oh yeah, we used to have, a Pathfinder, and then we went down to a Rogue, and it's way better because it's got the divide and hide cargo system in the back, and I know it sounds kind of like not an important thing, but when you go grocery shopping, all your stuff doesn't fly all over the back seat. the back of the car. And while that seems like a small thing, it's not a small thing, because now if we're going grocery shopping, we take the Rogue instead of my Murano because it's got the divide and hide cargo system and our groceries don't go all over the car.
Yeah.
And, if you're able to connect that with somebody, I don't remember how I started the story or why I got on it, but that's that story.
It's a them-centric strategic tactic. That's known as FBI, feature benefit impact. So here's the feature. Here's the benefit of the feature. Here's how it's going to impact your life. For example, like what you're talking about, Mercedes-Benz has got something called brake hold. They were a leader in the category of, a lot of cars have it now where you got to push a button down and it holds your brake, right?
Oh.
And Mercedes has got it right on the brake pedal. You simply come to a stop and then you just go on the brake pedal and it holds your brake. You can take your foot off the brake. And I'm like, if you're driving a car and you use those little features, because I can't tell you how many people that I would come across after my life in the business, after selling Mercedes, and I would say, what do you think of the brake hold feature? They had no idea it even existed.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's unfortunate, because I think that's a great feature. Imagine that you're in a drive-through, right? You're making your order, you're at a stoplight. You simply put your foot on the brake and push it down. A little hold indicator comes on your dash, and you hang out. Don't have to worry about keeping your foot. That little bit of effort right there is actually kind of monumental over time. Wouldn't you agree? Oh yeah, that would be great. And then, I would run into the same person. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
They were just unaware because the salesperson didn't have the wherewithal to introduce it to them, or whoever delivered the car. Just amazing stuff to me. That there's little simple overlooks that can make amazing differences in people's lives.
There's a there's a feature on the Nissan Rogue where if you do a weird combination, it's like an old video game. You do up, down, down, left, right, A, B, and then you do crack some code in the video game. There's something you could do on the windshield wiper thing on a Nissan Rogue where it would stop the windshield wipers halfway up, and then you could just easily fold them out manually when you get out of your car, which is something that happens a lot in the Northeast here when we're trying not to get our windshield wipers frozen. I never knew. I was the marketing director for a Nissan store for 6 years. I never knew that was a thing until a salesperson told me about that. And I was like, oh my God, I could apply that to my life tonight.
Yeah.
Things like that you don't get unless you drive the car, try them out. You could never, and that's something where a customer would be like, oh man, that's pretty cool. But if you don't know it, then you can't convey it.
The other thing is maybe a them-centric marketing, and then we're kind of exploring this with the Mercedes dealerships I work with, is including the customer on video marketing material. Not just, hey, we bought a car. After about a month or two, follow up with them and say,
Jim froze. How about that? Let's put him in the holding room and bring him back. And he's gone. Well, look at that. Technology did pretty well for us for an hour and 3 minutes. I was getting ready to wrap up anyway, but what I was going to say to Jim was, he lost his power, he said, and he texted me. Jeez. What I was going to say is I've had him on my podcast 3 times, and he has only had me on his podcast once. I don't think that's fair. But anyway, his power went out. Listen, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I think we should all use hashtag #BeThemCentric. I like it. It's not about you. It's about your customer or your prospect. It ain't about you, man. Hashtag #BeThemCentric. Thank you to Jim McCarthy for joining me, CEO of Jim McCarthy Voiceovers. Thanks to anybody who watched us live on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Daily Motion, Twitch, whatever that is. I don't even know what that is. It's a thing, and we're on there. So thanks to everybody who watched live, and thanks for listening. If you're listening on the podcast version, greatly appreciate it. Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson is a bi-weekly-ish podcast, mostly about automotive marketing. It's right there in the name. Easy to figure out. More episodes coming up soon. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.
Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson is brought to you by... Wait, this guy has sponsors? Oh, never mind. This sheet of paper's blank. No sponsors. That makes more sense. For updates, info, future episodes, and more, follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and connect on Frackle. You guys made that last one up. That's not even a thing, Frackle. Come on.
Oh, your power went out.
Yep.
I just ended it. It's over. I already played the credits. This is like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where the movie's over and he comes back on at the end. And you only see it.
Well, if you want to wrap it up, we can.
I already did wrap it up. I already wrapped it up. It's over. It's wrapped up.
All right.
We're done. I wrapped it up by saying that you've been on my podcast like 3 times now. I've only been on yours once. And if you want to make it about them centric, then have me on your podcast. Practice what you preach, brother.
I will try and do that. I haven't done a podcast of mine in a long time.
You should do that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, I got to go prospect now. I need to go do some prospecting.
Okay, bud.
I'm going to be them centric. Thank you, Jim.
All right.